Hey everybody, Flip Robinson here, one of the co-owners, I should say, of the Freedom Real Estate Group family of companies, and I'm here with our CEO, Randy Brown. Hey. This is our podcast. And our podcast is Real Talk, which is Real Talk for the real estate investor. And today's podcast is
it's podcast number 24.
Oh, number 24.
24, and it was supposed to be
Dos Cuatro.
Greatest books. I think when you find this video on YouTube or on your wherever you find your podcast, it's going to say the title's Greatest Books. Okay. Right. But as we were going through the prep for this, not that I punted on the title, right? But I think I went for books that are impactful. And when I was looking for impact, things that I actually use on a near daily basis. Right. You know, and some of these books are 20 years. I read them 20 years ago, but they're still pervasive in my life. So, so greatest books, but maybe the most used books.
Well, yeah, and two, I like your angle because I mean, you could get somebody in here and they're going to say Harry Potter's the greatest book.
All right, are we talking about Mark Twain or like Huck Finn here? We going like, I mean, should I talk about? I would think people kind of expect us to go with like Robert Kiyosaki or me with my finance background, Tom Wheelwright or Ken McElroy, stuff like that. You know, the Rich Dad Poor Dad series.
Right, absolutely.
Or maybe Robert Greene with 48 Laws of Power, right? Those kind of things. So I didn't want to get introspective, and I didn't want to reveal too much of my taste profile, right? You know, John Grisham, David Baldacci,
Dan Brown. Right.
Right. I didn't want to. You know, I didn't think that was really the assignment.
Right.
You know,
I think you hit the nail on the head.
All right, perfect. Cool.
So I don't know how you want to do this. I mean, I'll say my first one.
Okay.
And this one I talked about it actually in the vlog. This is a very impactful book, and it was actually part of Napoleon Hill.
Think and Grow Rich.
Thank you, Think and Grow Rich. It was the story about 3 Feet from Gold. Okay. And I'm not going to go in too much into the story, but in a nutshell, it was a guy who was mining. And he was mining for gold, and he kept going. He had borrowed money from everybody, and just to get the equipment to do everything, and he gave up. You know, he stopped. He couldn't do it anymore, and he sold his equipment. And the guy that he sold his equipment to said, "Well, let me get the right people." And they got the engineers on. You got whoever. You know, this is hundreds of years ago. And he said, and they found out that the vein, I believe that's what it's called, of the gold was going down, but it moved. And so the guy found out, he went down there and blah, 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 3 feet away from where the other guy had stopped. They hit the vein of gold. And so that's in the nutshell, 3 feet from gold. And it was the don't quit. And I said this in the vlog, and actually when I went back and watched the vlog, and it's true, on the vlog I said I can remember where I was when I listened to that story on audiobooks in Round Rock, Texas, over 10 years ago now. I can tell you exactly where I was. It was in our house and what room I was in, and because it impacted me so much, I was just like, I mean, you hear, quitters never quit, and you hear all the lines, but this one, like, just it really impacted me, and it's impacted Danny and I ever since, and we've never quit. We've always kept going, and now, look at us now. I mean, it's crazy. Sure. And so it impacted me, but actually they've taken that. There's an actual book now, 3 Feet from Gold. And it's a whole story about this other guy. It's the same thing, never quitting, in his whole storyline. But that one, that's a twofer. So you got the Napoleon Hill plus the additional book, the 3 Feet from Gold. But it's so impacted both Danny and I. It's on a daily basis we think about that and about that. Not only the just 3 Feet from Gold, just that, but the book and the story and everything. So that's my first one.
Yeah, that's good. Which I see those those memes all the time, like the infographics where it shows the guy with the pickaxe over his shoulder walking away, and he's this close to the diamond mine, or.
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Those, there's all kinds of analogies that come with if it was just that little extra keep going, or you don't know how close, and having belief in yourself and the vision and seeing it through, right? Seeing it through. There's a couple of the books that I chose. We didn't coordinate this, by the way, except for a few minutes before this, we looked at it and said, "Are there any overlaps?"
Yeah. Do you have any of my books over there?
Right, but there are some themes that overlap. Two of the books, one of them is in a group of books, but two of the books, E-Myth and 212, kind of have an overlap or a running through of of that story. So I'll touch on those as we get to it. So I'll actually go ahead and do these kind of a little bit out of order, just to go along with what you said there. But E-Myth by Michael Gerber, that's been extremely impactful to me. In fact, I reference it a lot,
right?
When dealing with clients and then talking about stuff here, right? And it's about a technician who was a superstar in that person's field, the baker who bakes the best cake, or the architect who has the best designs, or the graphic worker that, produces the best advertising work. They get tired of their boss, and then they decide to open up their own shop, right? And they think that they've started a business.
Right.
But what they really did for themselves was bought themselves a job, and not just a job, the worst job in the world, right? Yep. Because your new boss doesn't give you a day off. You're working 12-hour days, 7 days a week. Your even if you separate yourself from the office, your mind is always going, right?
Yep.
And so the whole theme of that book is building systems and processes and putting things in place to where you can actually scale and run a business, right? Not being self-employed. It's impactful to me because I deal with a lot of small business owners, and that's what happens. The first thing you do is you run out and get clients. Well, the first thing you should do is figure out how you're going to service your clients if you're not there.
Right.
And then that's a foundation that you can build on. All right. So the E-Myth, and then it's been updated, the E-Myth Revisited.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll confess that I have listened to the E-Myth Revisited on an airplane, but I did not finish it. But I did listen to it. Now, I don't know if are you familiar with Michael Gerber?
Yes. Yeah. We've done both E-Myth and E-Myth Revisited.
Nice. Okay. So I watched a presentation of his from 2016. It was his 80th birthday, I think.
Oh my goodness!
And this guy is a spitfire. Like, he is like, I'm gonna piss off all you entrepreneurs because you suck at it. Like, it was amazing. So I'm a huge fan, and his direct nature and listening, listening to him and how he has a passion for making sure that, there's another author on here who talks about the chains of entrepreneurship. So Michael, Gerber is talking about. Making sure that you're building a business and you're not a slave to your own creation. It's the worst loop to be caught in.
Yep.
From personal experience, I can tell you that that's the truth.
I
see it all the time.
Yeah, and this was, again, I know about 10 years ago. That was the big thing around the internet marketing world. Everybody was talking about the E-Myth, and so that's why we went through both books many years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and most people, when you talk about that, they think you mean E-Myth.
Yeah,
like they talk about e-commerce.
It's
like, read it. I'm telling you. Yeah. Listen, he starts at a bakery, right? She's the best. She has the best cakes or wedding cakes or whatever. So E-Myth. So I'll go ahead and go with the second book, or you want to fire off the second?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So E-Myth, definitely, if you haven't, check that out. Let me make sure I got the systems. I talked about that. All right, cool. So the next one, actually, I used in our meeting a couple Fridays ago, right? And that's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Now, I know there's some kind of back and forth about that book. Some folks think it's a little bit, some of it's a little cheesy, maybe dated, stuff like that. I think it's a great book, especially the first half of the book. People ask me what my favorite movie is, and I will say Rocky 2, 4, 1, 6, 3, 5.
Yeah.
And then if you want to throw in the creeds,
all right,
it'll be 2, 4, 1, 7, 8, 6, 3, 5.
So for those of you keeping score at home,
Creed being 7 and 8, right?
Right.
So I'm like that with the 7 Habits, right? I love how he starts out the book talking about your emotional bank accounts, talking about paradigms, talking about maturity, dependence. I depend on you. Then I become independent, so I can operate on my own, and then I get mature enough to the level where we can be interdependent, right? And so that we can rely on each other. I love how he starts the book out that way. And then the first habit of being proactive. taking control of your destiny, right? There's a line in there that is, if you're wondering where you're going to be in 5 years, create it.
Yeah.
If you worry about where you're going to be in 5 years, take control, put yourself there. So, that's it. Be proactive. So that's 1. And then 2, begin with the end in mind. Right. And then I skip 1, and then I seek first to understand and then to be understood. So if those are your takeaways, that's 1, 2, and 4 habits of highly effective people. So if you want to be a moderately effective person,
moderately,
right. All right. But beginning with the end in mind, it's been said 1,000 times. Things get created in twice, right? In your own mind, and then you actually do it, right? What are people going to say at your funeral? We were talking with someone here about their career development. This was been, maybe 6 months ago. But I was like, hey, when you achieve these goals, what's it going to feel like when you walk in here? When you get that promotion, what's your day going to look like? What's going to be in your purview then that's not in your purview now? Own that, feel that, go into that space, allow yourself to be there. What's important to you, and then if you act a certain way, what's going to be the result of that, and how's that result going to feel? Put yourself there. All right, and then seek first to understand and then be understood. I think a lot of conflicts can be resolved with that. So I think that kind of goes without saying. I don't have another bumper sticker phrase. Right. Seek, So, yeah. So 7 habits of highly effective people. It's another pretty short read. It's impactful daily use.
Nice. So just to rewind a little bit there, so Rocky 2 was your favorite.
Rocky 2 is the best movie ever made.
And that's the one with Drago, right?
No, it is not the one.
I will break you. No, that's 3.
Can we cut the camera? No. That is 4.
Oh my goodness. See,
yeah.
Let's see.
Rocky,
I was 12 when that came out. Was it? Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. So Rocky 2 is the best movie that was ever made.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that the cinema, whoever rates that thing, they have Citizen Kane as number 1 or whatever. That's wrong. I think they have Rocky.
That's wrong.
Yeah. The top 100, I think they have Rocky 1 as number 77, something like that. They miswatched those movies as well. Because Rocky 2 is the best movie ever made. Some of the best.
Caddyshack's right up there in the top 10, right?
I think Caddyshack is in that top 100, but I don't think it's
no, not top 10. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So 4 is Drago.
Okay.
4 is Drago. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So my second book, speaking of Drago, very very similar person of stature, Jocko Willink. Danny and I actually we got to
Echo Charlie.
Re-engage. Danny and I actually got to meet him a couple years ago, and just he's always serious. And you watch his podcast, but the second he gets like a fringe of a smile, and it's just like, oh, okay, oh, he does have a heart, but he's a great guy, very business minded, because he took what he learned with being in the Navy SEALs and everything that he went through, and his leadership of taking the platoon to Riyadh. It was just and he talked about that in length, which it was amazing, just the stories that he told. But there's a number of books that he's done. We have all of them here in the library. But one of the things we did as a whole company is we had everyone. We bought everyone the book. It was Extreme Ownership, and every week we had professional development. Everybody met, and we all talked about that chapter that we read that week, and it was really profound. I was curious how everyone was going to take it. I mean, and we've created such a disciple in our property manager. He's got everything that Jocko owns, and so. But it was a great book, and I always joke about the one time that I had an argument with our transaction coordinator. I said, well, no, I'll take ownership. That was my fault. And she said, no, I'm going to take ownership. It was my fault, and so we went back and forth. But it's such a great book, and it really brought our company together and opened. It's instead of people saying, "Oh, that's not my job," or "I'm not doing that," or it changed the mindset of a lot of the people here in the office, the team members, and it was a really impactful book, not only as a person but as our whole company. And so it was great. And he's got a number of other books out there: The Dichotomy of Leadership, the battle. I think there was a battle plan. I can't remember what the other one was. But I will say this: they're great reads, but get them on audiobook because he's the one that reads them on the audiobook, and it's just you can't imitate Jocko. It's Jocko, you know. And he's on a number of podcasts. He's on Joe Rogan's podcast quite a bit, you know. But he's also got his own podcast, I believe. And
he does.
Yeah. It's what is it, 4:44 or something like that? The time he or 4:28 or something like that. He's up before his enemies, and he's up working out at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, he has that picture of his watch.
Yep.
You know, making you feel like a slouch.
Yep.
The guy is man enough to sit and read someone else's book on a live video stream, and you're going to listen.
Yep, exactly. Right. Exactly. Yeah. But he's got one of the great little quick videos. It's only like 2.5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes long. It's good.
Yeah.
It's just good. Re-engage.
You said you can't imitate him.
I know, that's pretty good. Yeah. Sorry, I was practicing.
That's right.
But
maybe
that's
we can have Caitlin mess with the audio just a little bit and lay it over.
Yeah, but I've got the shirt. This is good, and this is the whole line. It's on the T-shirt, and Danny's got one now. This is good, and it's like, you know, it's like you didn't get the promotion. Good, you know. And so, but anyway, that's a great video. Just Google or go to YouTube. Google Jocko Good. That's all you need to type in. You're going to get it. But that's my second book. So
gotcha. All right. So I'll jump in with my book 3.
Okay.
This one is foundational to me. I heard about this because of a professional group that I was involved in. Actually, I was a tertiary participant in that group. So there was a group in Tampa that brought this. I was invited. Anyway, they were. It's called Profit First by Michael.
Yeah, I was gonna see if you knew how to pronounce that.
Migalowitz.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, perfect.
But he also has the Pumpkin Plan and some other entrepreneurial books. But the thing that gets me about Profit First. First of all, I ran my firm as a profit first type firm. Not exactly. I don't have 9 bank accounts. We had 5. Right? But his mission statement, I watched his TED Talk before I read the book, right? Because it is a math-heavy type book, right?
Yeah.
So during his TED Talk, he said that his mission was to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. And that hit me. I was like, man, I speak in bumper sticker.
Yeah, right.
Like, I want that bumper sticker. Right. So I went into it. And so Profit First, just to boil it down, is taking the accounting equation, you know, revenue minus expenses equals profit, and flipping it on its ear and saying revenue minus profit equals what you...
Don't break it.
Welcome to the Thunderdome. Revenue minus profit equals what you have left for expenses, right? And you've heard me say this probably 1,000 times. The business has to pay you. Otherwise, it doesn't exist, right? Yep. There's no reason for it to exist if it doesn't pay you. So he parses out the portion that's going to be his profit first. That's basically the book. Now,
profit first and you know.
Way easier said than done.
Right.
So he takes you through this walk of separating your money into smaller plates. He uses the analogy of a buffet. If you go up to the buffet and you have a big old plate, then there are things that you'll spend money on or grab and eat that you don't really need, right? Because you have all of this excess, right? All this place to put it. So if you treat your money the same way by spreading it out, putting it to use, and specifying what that use is going to be, then when you're sitting there with a problem, you're less apt to throw money at that problem and pull out those things that we had way back in our younger days, those skills of ingenuity and building bridges and solving problems without excess cash, right? The other piece is building habits. So if your goal is to have 20% bottom line profit margin, probably can't start taking 20% of revenue day one. Right. But he talks about starting as small as 1% to build the habit of money moving to a place that the business doesn't get to use it anymore, or that the business can allocate for a specific purpose and not get lost in the big bucket that is your operating capital. Right. So profit first, foundational, strongly suggested.
Yeah, that was awesome. And especially because because that's what we're doing here,
yep.
right? You know, I haven't really fully grasped it. I just know there's a lot of buckets, and none of the buckets have my name on it. So that's all I understood. My third one, again, I didn't mean to stick on a Navy SEAL theme here, but this was one that a very good friend of mine that I've known for many, many years. He actually is the principal trumpet player in the San Diego Symphony, and he had told me because he lives in San Diego, and he works out at a gym with a number of SEALs actually that work out at his gym, and I had said something about I had heard about this book, and he goes, "Oh, Goggins, yeah, you need to read that book." That's all he said, and just the look in his eye, I was just like, okay. And so I got it on. We were at a convention at the time, and so I bought it on audiobook, and the first chance I had a chance to even listen to it was on the airplane coming back, and I like listening to audiobooks, but like in a certain place and time, not when I'm out traveling or in an airport or whatever. And I started this book, and like 2 minutes into the book, I couldn't stop it. Like, I'm listening to it walking down the jet bridge to get in the airplane. And so we got in the airplane, we sat down, and Danny taps me on the, what are you listening to? And I said, "Oh, you got to listen to this. This is awesome." It's about David Goggins. It's about his life, and the book is a great read. And there's some pretty graphic pictures in there. I'll just say that. The audiobook is read by someone else, not David Goggins. But in the audiobook, after each chapter, then the guy who's reading it, the narrator, stops. And then, as if he turns around to look at David Goggins and says, "Whoa, man, that was some messed up, stuff there." And then there's David Goggins, and then he talks to David Goggins. So it's like a book plus, because you got the normal book, but then in between each chapter, he talks to Goggins about that chapter.
Oh, wow!
So it's like a summarizing of what he just talked about, and it was just absolutely amazing. And just there's so many stories in that book, and just one of my favorite from the book, because there's some funny stories in the book, is because he laughs about what he did. He does not stop. And there's
what was the name of the book again?
Can't Hurt Me.
Can't Hurt Me.
By David Goggins. And he went from 300 pounds down to 240 or whatever. Went through the Navy SEALs training. He went through Bud's training, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Right. The first 2 times he got all the way to the end, and they're both medical issues. And so the third time he got all the way through, and he knows Jocko, he knows all the guys like the major Navy SEAL movies that have been out lately. The Sniper,
Marcus,
Chris Kyle, and then Marcus
Luttrell.
Yep. The Lone Survivor. He went through Bud's training with Marcus Luttrell. Actually has a twin brother, and there's a funny story in there about Marcus and I don't know what Marcus's twin brother is. They switch places, and David tells a story in the book. That's a little treat for you there. But there's a story about there where he can't walk, and he's in Las Vegas with his wife and mom, and they were there to run the Las Vegas Marathon. And he went and because he'd been doing these 100-miler races, running 100 miles, and like he had hurt himself so bad that he couldn't, he went out running the day before the marathon, and he couldn't even run a half a mile, and he was in so much pain. And he's like, so the day of the marathon, he said, "All right, listen," to his wife, he said, "You go run the marathon. I'm gonna walk it with my mom. I can't do this." And she's like, "Okay, no problem." And they went 3, 2, 1. They shot the gun off, and he took off. And because it was just mental, and he took off, and he ran the Las Vegas Marathon the day before. Couldn't run a half a mile. He ran the Las Vegas Marathon in so fast of a time that he qualified for the Boston Marathon. I mean, and that's not easy to do. It's
sure.
Like 3.5 hours, I think, something like that. But to run a marathon, and just the day before, he couldn't even run a half a mile, and now he's running 3.5 miles. But the book is all about what you think. It's if you think your limits are here, you're wrong. Your limits aren't even close to being here. And he. I don't know. I was trying to think of how he just went at it. He didn't. No one told him he couldn't do it. He just did it. And it's there's a lot of lessons in there. He had the world record for most pull-ups. I think. Well, he had it for a little while.
And 24 hours or something like that.
Right? Yeah. And I mean, the first time he did it, he I won't tell you. Anyway, there's pictures in the book that are some are kind of graphic, but anyway, there's lots of funny stories in there. But there's also just, stories of just determination and what he would do to he was finishing. It didn't matter. He was going to finish. And it was so there's some great stories in there, but it's a great story, and boy, I tell you, you can't lay down on the couch the next day because it's just you're like, oh wow, look what he did, Sure. I can't even waste today, but it's there's a lot of great messages in there, so that's my third book for today.
So on that same topic, he does a hour-long interview with Tommy, I think it's Ballou, whatever, where he talks about after that lone survivor incident, and he did a fundraiser, and so he was raising money for all these families and things like that.
Because he knew them. Because he knew them all. Yeah, and that was
he had to qualify for this event.
That was the desert.
Okay.
It's a marathon. It's longer than a marathon, but it's in the desert. What is it? The Death Valley. Where the temperature is up to 140 degrees or something stupid. But yeah. So
So anyway, I don't want to go into the whole story because I want to encourage people to actually find that interview because it's game changing. The humility that he has about, I'm doing these crazy things, but I'm not a crazy person, right? And there's nothing special about me. It's that I made a decision that I'm not going to be turned away, especially not 3 feet from gold.
Exactly. Whoa, Fancy, I turned that on. 3 feet for gold, extreme ownership.
And Jocko.
There we go.
Tied them all together. Right. So I'm a pretty big fan, especially where he started. He was overweight, had a goal, wanted to get in there. So he's an
and that's a great
guy.
Story too. Like the breaking point of he had to stop. He's like, I'm overweight. And he just clicked, and from that second on, he was just on fire. But yeah, and catching him on these podcasts with Joe Rogan and Jocko, and they all know each other,
right.
And Marcus Luttrell, and they all know each other. They all talk, and catching them all on the same podcast is hilarious.
Yeah, Marcus is actually pretty funny too.
I
recently saw his recount of this. I mean, that was impactful. We weren't talking about best interviews to watch,
right. Well, but that's also a great book, Lone Survivor book. And sorry, last thing before you go on to the last one.
Sure.
I just learned this too, that Marcus Luttrell, the Lone Survivor, that whole movie, with
Mark Wahlberg.
Thank you. That whole story. Like he gets the snot beat out of him, and close to death, and he gets rescued, whatever. He went back.
Yes, he did.
He wasn't done, and I think it was Joe Rogan that says, "What were you thinking?" He goes, "Man, I'm from Texas. When you get the crap beat out of you, you go back and you beat them. You go back for more. So it's but anyway, so that's another good book. Survivor.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
No sweat. I dig that stuff. I noticed you have a very strong thing, and mine is a little bit cerebral.
Right.
So all of that super SEAL image that we just had in that last book you just talked about, or your books. Now I want you to imagine an 18-year-old kid who's brand new managing a store at Radio Shack, right? So this next kind of group of books, I know I was trying to do 4, but this is this kind of a group of like pocket readers, right? That'll kind of be my 4th entry. I had the unique experience. I was a non-traditional college student, right? So my first real job was at Radio Shack, and I went through their management training program, which was like a year-long program, and then I ended up taking a store. So I went through that program, and then a few years later, while working part-time, still in college as non-traditional student, I had a management opportunity with Citigroup. And then I went through there. It was a 6-month management training program. And I got to do both of those things before I went and got my management degree from NKU, right? And finished up my management degree in NKU. And the books that overlapped all 3 programs are the ones I'm going to talk about right now. So first one, 3 feet from gold. I immediately thought of this one, but 212. I mean, that book is like that thick, right? But it talks about the difference between water at 211 degrees and at 212 degrees, it boils, right? and boiling water produces steam, and steam can power a locomotive.
I didn't know Jocko read this book.
That's right. Re-engage. Right. So 212, and it talks about the difference between finishing on the podium as a sprinter in the Olympics and off the podium. So first to fourth, right? Top of the podium to fourth place being, sometimes milliseconds, right? In the Indianapolis 500, and the difference, and just being hundredths of a second, right? Milliseconds is probably tough in sprinting, but you get the point, right? So just that little, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little extra, right? But that, that kind of motivational, quick read book that just shows the difference between actually trying hard, right? Because we all have those moments in our mind. Like, if we could have learned that, I've heard some athletes talk about this. If I could have learned as an 18, 19, 20-year-old what intensity was, right? And being able to apply what I know now as an adult, what intensity actually is, right? Because we perceive our limits as very, very much lower than they actually are. Thanks, David Goggins, right? So 212. I probably took longer talking about that book than it'll take you to read it.
Right. I thought 212 stood for how long? 212 seconds.
Right. So the next one, they kind of go together. I read these. They're all actually, the books all look almost exactly the same, but the 1 Minute Manager, Zap the Lightning of Empowerment, and then Who Moved My Cheese, right? So 1 Minute Manager, being concise, setting clear goals, then praising early, and then redirecting. And what I liked about that book was, and not that this is my management style, but it's a painful redirection so that it is remembered, and then build immediately off of it, right? So quick, to the point, make it real, and then move on immediately, right? And once it's done, it's done. There's no harboring bad feelings, those kind of things. So I really like 1 Minute Manager. Zap the Lightning of Empowerment. It's kind of, those grapes are my jam. So it's in the process of building a business. We talked about the E-Myth, where you have to have people involved in building that business. How are you going to serve your client when you're not there? Right. And so in order to do that, you have to empower folks, right? So the way people act, the author talks about when his daughter got dressed for the first time by herself, like just the light in her eyes and, the reassurance that was given, those kind of things. So Zap the Lightning of Empowerment, and then Who Moved My Cheese? That's a recent visit here in the office, right? Yeah. Right. Keeping your, ear to the ground, nose in the air, right? Sniff and scurry, running around, going to the pile of cheese, noticing that, hey, this cheese isn't replenishing like it used to. So getting about how we're going to replenish the cheese, where him and Hall, we're like, hey, there's plenty of cheese here. We'll figure it out at some point.
We're cool, man.
And they sit around until the cheese runs out. Sniff and scurry are on to the next, supply of dairy product. And him and Hall now have to rebuild, And so there's some cute cliches about handwriting on the wall and things like that. But it's just a microcosm of, the management and business visionary experience, right? So 212, Zap the Lightning of Empowerment, 1 Minute Manager, and Who Moved My Cheese.
Bam.
4 and 1.
There you go. Bam. Yeah, exactly. Well, awesome. Well, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, not really. I really enjoyed talking through this stuff, right? Seeing the impact. Something that as I was prepping for this topic, Caitlin, our marketing director, said, "You guys should talk about the books that have impacted you." I really enjoyed picking through the archives and seeing, what are the things that, if I was to have a conversation, maybe I was with a new employee or a client or a potential investor or something like that, what am I going to pull from for a brand new situation? And these kind of jumped off the page. So I really enjoyed preparing for this and talking about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was hard because I wanted to, and he only brought 3 books, but the list that I chose from, these are the 3 that survived the list, because especially, just even here in the office, we went through a number of weeks where we were doing a book a week or a book, not a book week, but it was like book every 4 weeks or whatever it was, and so we were going through a number of books and Atomic Habits and, Traction, and just to name a couple,
Who Not How.
Yep, exactly. Who Not How, Good to Great. So there's a lot of books that he could have talked about. These are they're business books. It's definitely 3 feet from gold, but they're different. I was looking for outside the box books, but also my favorites.
Sure.
Because I could go back to my office and listen to either one of these, like that.
I think I will listen to Can't Hurt Me. In fact, I've got a 90-minute drive home. I might get. I listen
actually,
to 1.75.
And that's a good book to listen at 1.5, 1.75 because he's a slow reader.
Okay.
And Goggins talks slow as well. So yeah, it speeds it up perfect. So, well, awesome. Again, we hope that you enjoyed our podcast here on the
greatest books
that had impact on us. A little asterisk that had impact on us. But again, our podcast, Real Talk, which is Real Talk for the Real Estate Investor. Make sure you check out our vlogs. We got vlogs, and you'll see them here or there, wherever. I think down there if you're watching this. But again, thank you. Randy, for joining me and joining us on this the greatest books. But that's going to wrap it up, and we always wrap it up with
invest smart,
live happy. See you, everybody. Nothing on this show should be considered specific personal or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions and information on this show are not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss.